What's up, everybody? You're back in here with the Pro Football Pod. You've got Hulk, you've got Coach. We're hanging out with you. Go ahead, hit that subscribe button down below, because once we hit 500 subscribers, we're giving away a free jersey of your choice. We got the Texans episode for you today, so we'd love for that to be a Stephon Diggs, CJ Stroud, Will Anderson Jr. At this point, just take your pick. Like, dude, the Texans got some studs.
I'd be going number 0, DeMeco Ryans all day long. MVP of this team. Did he win Coach of the Year last year? Because if not, he deserved it. Like, everyone loves to give CJ Stroud so much credit. And yes, him and Will Anderson came in and right away were leaders in the locker room. But dude, in DeMeco's first year, he proved exactly why he deserved to be a head coach. Like, he took a team that has never really been on people's radar, and this is a Super Bowl contending team in, I think, 70% of football viewers' eyes.
Kevin Stefanski won Coach of the Year last year for the Browns, which
it makes sense with the Joe Flacco thing. I guess that makes sense. With
the defense you had, and yeah, the Joe Flacco thing. Yeah, okay, I get that. But DeMeco made a very strong case. Now, let's just go ahead and dive into the guys that they added, the guys they lost. Obviously, we all know they added Stephon Diggs at wide receiver. Love the fact that they were able to bring in Joe Mixon there at running back. I think he's going to have a little bit of a resurgence there for him.
Look what Devin,
Devin Singletary.
Look what he did last year. He was able to do for his career. He got paid by the
Giants.
So I think Joe Mixon's going to be able to step it up.
Their defense, what they did to overhaul their defense, bringing in Danielle Hunter, Aziz Al-Shir, Denico Autry at edge, Derek Barnett at edge, and Jeff Okudah at corner.
And they paid nothing for Jeff Okudah.
I love all of those pieces that they brought in. They lost Denzel Perriman at linebacker. Okay. Blake Cashman at linebacker. Okay. Devin Singletary, like you mentioned, moved on to New York, and Jonathan Greenard at edge. Kind of did a little tradesies. He went over to Minnesota, and they got Danielle Hunter in that. So all in all, their defense to me absolutely got stronger. Their offense got stronger. They drafted Kamari Lassiter, the corner out of Georgia.
We liked him a lot.
Loved him. Kalen Bullock, the safety from USC, absolutely liked him. Cade Stover, the tight end from Ohio State.
Low-key,
and
very
Solomon
great pick.
Byrd, the edge from USC.
He was one of our late-round darlings.
They didn't have many picks, but the ones they did have, I liked every one of the players that they took.
Yeah. At where they took them to, Cade Stover was quite an athletic, like, very good, solid tight end. They have Dalton Schultz already, so he won't be asked to, like, be the week one guy. But over the next couple of years, he could develop into a threat in their passing game.
And the way it's going right now, just with the way they've done this quick turnaround, the way they've built the team, the head coach they have being a former player, like, it's absolutely a mirror image of what Detroit is trying to do over in the NFC side.
Exactly.
With Dan Campbell. And I love that mentality and that aspect of building a team. Obviously, you see it behind me. If the Dolphins don't make the Super Bowl, I want to see a Lions-Texans Super Bowl. That is what I'm rooting for this year.
That would be amazing.
It would be electric to have a Lions-Texans Super Bowl. Let's go ahead and dive into some ADPs. What do you say? You think the people will be down for that? Get a little better at fantasy football this year?
I hope so. I'm going to say this right now. CJ Stroud is who I'm targeting at quarterback this year. You're getting him in the 4th round, so you don't have to spend a top 3 pick on him. He has running value, but his passing value is what's going to really do it for you. I don't want to say this, but I think it's the most accurate thing to say. CJ Stroud's arm talent and his ability to do things with the ball after the play is dead reminds me so much of Deshaun Watson whenever he was there.
Okay.
And
I
know that
curious to hear the name coming out of him. I was like, yeah. Oh man, who are we leading up to here?
Yeah, I know nobody wants to talk about Deshaun Watson.
Hey, I'll be the first to say, and you go back and listen to my Browns episode. Anytime Deshaun Watson's mentioned, I'm going to say Predator, like whatever. I get it. But Deshaun Watson in those Texans years, there's a reason the guy was a top 5 quarterback. The whole rumblings with the Dolphins, is he going to come over there and replace two? Like, there's a reason all that took place. The guy was legit.
Yeah.
So I do see what you're saying in that aspect of CJ goes out there and it's just the dude just makes plays.
So I get to get 3 receivers or 1 tight end, 2 receivers, and then CJ Stroud. That's my perfect 4-round draft. Like that's exactly what I think I want from my redraft draft.
Always of the style of wait on a quarterback. I almost always find myself doing that because I just see too much sugar there with the wide receivers and running backs, even tight ends available to me. Yeah. It's just like, I can wait a little bit, you know, because I'm the type to where I'll absolutely wait on a Brock Purdy, Jared Goff, Tua, Trevor Lawrence, Caleb Williams, Jaden Daniels, and just kind of roll with it and see what happens. Pick up another quarterback later. You'll hear me mention that all the time. CJ is one of the few exceptions I'm willing to make for the simple fact of he has so many targets.
Yes.
Between Nico Collins, who is becoming a top 10 wide receiver in this league, if not already, Stephon Diggs, who has established himself as one of the best wide receivers in the league, Tank Dell, once he comes back fully healthy, we saw what he was able to do with CJ last year. Dalton Schultz, and then what Joe Mixon is going to give you in receiving ability out of the backfield. Like, I feel much better about CJ Stroud as a pick than anybody else on the Texans that I just mentioned.
Absolutely. And that's part of why I want him as well. He ends the tier for tier 1 quarterbacks for me. Anthony Richardson has risk. Joe Burrow has risk. Jordan Love has risk. Like Jordan Love.
Yeah, last year to me, everybody's hyping him up, and we see this all the time. And I'm not calling that Jordan Love's just going to fall off a cliff, but we've seen it to where, all right, we have a full year of game film from you now. We've seen what you do with all of your wide receivers, which ones are in there, stuff like, okay, let's see how you adjust and develop yourself as a quarterback coming in, which I have some faith in LaFleur there, but I absolutely see what you're saying.
If CJ Stroud gets taken 1 pick before me, I'm not necessarily jumping on any of the quarterbacks in the 4th, 5th, or 6th round. I'm probably going to go Dak Prescott in the 6th or 7th. Like, that's my next quarterback that I would potentially target. I just think that from CJ Stroud to Dak Prescott, there's so much risk with those next 3 guys. Even Kyler Murray has a bunch of risk. Brock Purdy's another one. If both my 2 guys go, then I'm taking Brock Purdy with my next available pick, hands down. I'm not even waiting another step on quarterback. I don't want to get stuck with Jared Goff. He had a very great season last year, but I'm just afraid of the contract, I think, more than anything. And Tua would be another phenomenal pick at where he's going. But if I could get one of those 3 guys, that's probably where I'm going at quarterback.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, and that's where I'm at with you is if I miss on CJ Stroud, I'm waiting for the Goff Tua range, because for me, not even to just jump ahead to speak on Tua, but how many times have we seen the guy that led the league in passing go that far down in a fantasy draft the next year?
Yeah, that doesn't happen very often.
If ever. That's where there is tons of value if you do miss out on CJ. Now, let's go ahead and talk about these other guys. Joe Mixon, 5th round pick for you right now, top 15 running back.
That's a hard one for me to swallow.
Kenneth Walker, Alvin Kamara, Aaron Jones in Minnesota now. Ramondre Stevenson just got paid. After that, it does become a question mark for me. So that's one to where you'd have to have strong conviction in one of those 4 guys to pass on Joe Mixon.
Yeah, like even...
And I know a lot of people are down on Mixon coming into Houston this year. I've heard a lot of pundits talk about he was declining last year in Cincinnati, yada. But for me, with this team, he's not going to have to do what he was having to do in Cincinnati.
I agree with what you're saying. He's not going to be required to do as much, but running backs that get low target share, not like receiving targets, but just low percentages of like them touching the ball, it's so hard for them to hit on value. I think that Zamir White in the 7th round as the 22nd running back overall is someone I would rather have over a Joe Mixon. Not because I think that he's going to have a much better season than Joe Mixon, but because he's not as risky. I don't have to spend as much on him, and Zamir White could be down in a bunch of games and not have his value, and I'll be okay with that compared to if Joe Mixon and them aren't blowing everybody out, and if the games are close and they have to rely on Nico Collins and Tank Dell, like I don't want to miss out on
the
20
value
point
I
games.
do see in Joe is if you're waiting on a running back a little bit and you're committing to, okay, he's going to be my RB1, but I was able to get and stack him with CJ Stroud around before. And then I was also able to get some elite wide receivers in the first 3 rounds. Then I'm okay with Joe Mixon being my RB1.
That's the hard part for
Because
me.
the way I look at it is if they've blown teams out, CJ's already got his, and Joe Mixon's about to get his to run the clock out and get the garbage time. If they haven't blown teams out, or it's being a shootout, or they're getting blown out themselves, well, Joe Mixon's value in PPR is about to go up, and I know CJ's about to get his. So that's one of those things for me to where if I am able to stack them, I'm okay with Joe Mixon being my RB1.
Yeah.
But I would have to kind of be looking for that stack.
Because at least I
Make
know
me
that
feel better about it.
if Mixon does nothing, then Stroud might get 30 points that game. And that'll make up for my running back having a lack. So I hear you there. I feel like, again, even Zach
And
Moss.
Dameon Pierce is still there. Like, that's one thing we do. And we've seen Dameon Pierce have tremendous value. And I think he is going to be the goal line guy that steals a lot of touchdowns from Joe Mixon this year.
Zach
But I
Moss in
think
the
Joe
8th
Mixon
round.
has great PPR value in the 5th
Javonte
round.
Williams in the 8th round. Like, these guys are RB1s on their team, and you get them so much later.
I don't know if Javante's going to be. The things I'm hearing as far as how they like Estime and Jaleel McLaughlin, like Sean Payton didn't draft Javonte Williams.
I agree with that. But even then, still, Zach Moss, Tony Pollard, Jonathan Brooks, like, all these guys are basically, there's a couple of people on the roster that could take some carries from them, but they're projected to get at least a 60% target share. I like that
If
more.
Joe Mixon didn't have Dameon Pierce behind him, like
I'd
a
pick
guy
him in
who
the
we
5th
have
all day.
seen fantasy value,
Yeah.
I agree with you there. So looking in these wide receivers, you got Nico Collins going in the early 2nd, Stephon Diggs going in the late 2nd, early 3rd, Tank Dell going in the 5th. Which one has the most value for
Stephon
you?
Diggs. Nico Collins is the better player. He's probably going to get a bigger target share, but Stephon Diggs made Josh Allen over the last 2 or 3 seasons the passer that he is. I think that Stephon Diggs is being slept on super heavy. The guy's probably like 29, maybe 30 years old. He is a route running technician. He's eaten on the Dolphins from underneath for so many years in a row that we've had to watch him just be unstoppable and get 14 targets. I think that Nico and Tank are going to open up the field a lot more for Stephon than he ever got in Buffalo. And that the value that you're getting in the almost 4th round, he's the 19th wide receiver off the board. Like him, Mike Evans, Brandon Ayuk, DJ Moore, Debo Samuels, like Jalen Waddle, these guys are all very, very, very solid wide receivers to grab. Some of these guys that are getting taken before them, like Puka Nacua, are blowing my mind. Like, it's if Cooper Kupp didn't exist, then yeah, Puka Nacua should be a top 10 pick. But Cooper Kupp was hurt all last year, and he's being drafted before Stephon Diggs. Like, I would much rather have Diggs with all those other people to eat around him than the risky Puka Nacua for me.
Feel you. The one thing I'm going to push back on is I like Nico's value compared to Diggs because I don't think Diggs is going to affect Nico at all. I think if anything, it's going to open up more things for Nico because it's, oh shit, we've got Stephon Diggs to also worry about. I think it's going to hurt Tank Dell more.
Yes.
Like even with Tank Dell missing 6 games last season, especially the last 5, still finished with 75 targets, 47 receptions, 700 yards, and 7 touchdowns. Like, great output. The
10
dude was
yards
on
a target and
the
a
dude
touchdown.
was on his way to being one of the best rookie wide receivers in the league, like by a long shot. Like, dude was pushing out. He gave you 3 or 4 20-point outings last year. Like, that's where I think it's going to affect him
I'm
more
not
than it will
drafting
Nico.
Tank Dell. Like, I'm not drafting him in the 6th round. I'm not drafting him in the 7th. If he's there in the 8th, I might take him over like a Hollywood Brown.
The 8th
Over,
is where I would start seeing his value for me,
Yeah.
is a high-end flex, high-end, like, rotational guy on the bench. Like,
yep.
I feel you there. So that's where if I'm looking at a Texan wide receiver, it is Nico or Stephon.
Tank
And
Dell.
shout out to Chief Sut. Sut, if you're watching this, the guy last year did say to us on our show that Nico Collins was on his way to being Andre Johnson. And I pushed back hard on that because we're talking about a Hall of Fame wide receiver. And I'm still not ready to go there.
Yeah, I agree. I'm not ready to go there.
I mean, but the guy, he showed out last year. He gave you 80 receptions on 109 targets in 15 games played, 1,200 yards, 8 tutties. Like, every bit of that is wide receiver 1.
For him to get taken in almost the 2nd round, I would have wanted him to get at least 100 receptions last year and at least 1,200 yards. Like, there's so much value from wide receivers, and I think that...
Okay, so let's play a game real quick. Nico Collins or Deebo Samuel?
Nico Collins.
Nico Collins or Brandon Ayuk?
Brandon Ayuk.
Nico Collins or Jalen Waddle?
Jalen Waddle.
Nico Collins or Mike Evans?
Fuck you.
I'm
Mike
going down the
Evans.
list.
Mike Evans.
Okay, so, and one more. Nico Collins, Michael Pittman Jr.
Nico Collins. I think that Michael Pittman is on a running
So you're
team.
okay with passing on Nico because there are a couple guys behind you that you're willing to take and then take Diggs in the next round there.
Yeah.
So I do understand. I'm taking Nico over all of those guys. Even being a Jalen Waddle guy, have his jersey, all of it. He's a wide receiver 2, and Nico's wide receiver 1. Like, that's just simply how it is on their respective teams. Michael Pittman Jr. is the one. If Gardner Minshew was still there,
Yes.
he'd be the one that would make me wait a little bit.
Yes.
Because I've seen what he gave me with Gardner Minshew. He gave me a minimum of 8 receptions a game. That was awesome.
With like 10 to 12 targets. Sometimes 14, 15 targets.
It was awesome. Prop betting wise, loved it. You got to climb the ladder with Michael Pittman every week. So that's where, for me, I understand your outlook. I'm one to where I can place Nico Collins and never have to worry about him. Whereas Stephon, it's coming in on a new team. He's got a new quarterback. He's got to build rapport. Is he going to be the chirpy vet that comes in and wants his targets right off the bat? He's been known to be a diva in his last 2 stops in Buffalo and in Minnesota.
Yep, that's why he got pushed out of both teams.
Like, that's my thing. So Nico and Tank, they were both there with CJ last year. They've got the rapport. They've got the relationship. Like, it's been built there. That's my only hang up on it, is I feel safer with Nico than I do with Stephon.
Whenever Diggs played with Adam Thielen, a lot of people thought that Adam Thielen was the better receiver, and he was more targeted, and he was more of a lot of things. And Diggs was kind of that deep threat. He made big plays, but he didn't get enough.
He was the more dependable wide receiver.
Thielen was.
Yeah. Like
And
Thielen was more dependable, but Stephon made the highlight plays. He made the
Stephon,
big
the
catches. Like,
moment that he stepped into Buffalo, became a top 5 wide receiver in the NFL. He
oh,
showed
I'll never
he
take away
has the
what he
talent.
did for not even that, but for the outlook of the league completely. It shifted to, all right, let's give these quarterbacks until year 3 or until we can get them an elite wide receiver.
Exactly.
Because we saw what Stephon did for Josh Allen.
Yes.
Like, we're going to hear that narrative for at least the next 5 years until somebody else does it again. Like, so I feel you on all aspects. Let's touch on Dalton Schultz real quick. Number 14 tight end, 124 overall.
We've talked about Dalton on a couple of our other episodes.
Dalton's one that I am going to pass on because I think he is going to become very touchdown dependent.
I agree with that. CJ Stroud had made Dalton Schultz relevant last year for maybe 6 or 8 games. If we look at it real quick, he finished 4 targets, 7 targets, 3, 10, 7, 5, 11. That and 6. That little 5-game stretch between Atlanta and Cincinnati.
Double-digit scoring outputs.
Yeah, but I'm looking at targets, right? Like between weeks 5 and weeks 10, he went 10, 7, 5, 11, and 6 in targets. Mm-hmm. That's exactly where I want him. And he finished the season
4 weeks, 5, 11, 4, and 7. Like,
but those 2 and 3 target games are going to become a lot more common now that there's so many targets to go.
Like, I think you're looking at 4 to 5 targets on a good day, maybe 30 to 50 yards on a good day.
And if he gets a touchdown, he's worth it.
And that's where I say, like, you know, he's going to be very touchdown dependent.
And with only 5 last year, with having so few red zone threats, I don't know if he's going to get more than 8 this year, and he needs more than 8 to be a draftable player. I would much rather take Dallas Goedert a little bit earlier, TJ Hawkinson a little bit earlier, Jake Ferguson a little bit earlier, and I'd even rather take Pat Freiermuth after him. Like, and then to wait on Dalton Schultz. I'm not going to not draft him at all. If all those guys go and I'm stuck with Cole Kmet, Luke Musgrave,
I would take him if I already had a tight end.
See, I don't like drafting 2 tight ends if I don't have to. That's why I like taking one in the first 6 rounds. So like this year, Mark Andrews in round 5 is like my absolute target at tight end, even with the injury. Sam Laporta's overdrafted in round 2. Travis Kelce in round 3 is a phenomenal value at tight end, but I'm not excited about Dalton Schultz even though he's in the 12th round. Like, I just don't have enough from him week in, week out.
All right, so looking at the over-under that they have listed on FanDuel, they're listed at 9.5, over-under 9.5. They went 10-7 last year, won the division, made the playoffs. What are we thinking for them this year? Are they going 10 wins again?
So we said in the Titans video that every team in this division did seem to get a little bit better. The Texans got a fuck ton better. I think that they're going to get 11 wins, if not more. I think that they're going to be one of the teams to beat in the AFC. I think getting 9.5 is... I can't believe that their line is set at 9.5, honestly. Like, there's a very high chance that they sweep the whole division. I don't know if there's one team in their division that, if they're rolling, is going to be able to keep up with them, because I trust their offense because of all the pieces that they added, and their defense is run by DeMeco Ryans. Even if their defense didn't get better, I think their defense is going to get better without adding a single player.
Now, they do have a decently tough schedule. Like you mentioned, the division for the most part did get better. So you figure they are going to drop a couple games within the division. They're out of division games. They've got Buffalo, New York, Buffalo, the Jets. They've got the Dolphins, the Chiefs, the Ravens, the Lions, the Cowboys. Like, they have a decent
playoff teams.
A decently difficult division, but when you're one of the darlings of the NFL and you're one of these up and coming teams like that, we want to see better matchups, and it's just kind of how the schedule dictates. So I'm with you. I'm going on the over. I don't think they're going to regress this season at all, especially where they got so much stronger on the defensive side. So I'm going to go the over as well. I think they can definitely get to 11 or 12 wins this year. I mean, not going to go ahead and toot the horn yet, but CJ Stroud will come into the year as one of the guys that a lot of people have their eye on. First 4, 5, 6 weeks of the season, if he's balling out, his name's going to start getting thrown out at MVP things again.
Exactly.
It was last year as a rookie.
Yeah.
And the only reason he wasn't going to win the MVP is because everybody said he's a rookie. We can't give the MVP to a rookie. He'd have to have an out of this world season for him to win it. And the guy just about did that.
Yeah.
So, hey, Texans fans, if you're still here with us, go ahead and hit that subscribe button down below. Once we hit 500, free jersey of one of you lucky guys or ladies, one of your choices, it's coming to you. Hit that notification bell up in the corner. TulsiRoseTea.com is the sponsor. Go there for all of your tea needs. They'll ship it to you in a nice little bag. We love you guys. Peace out.